If you could put the graphics on, please. You open it?
Yes, 1 second.
And we can bring everybody in from the living room. Okay, Karen, we are live on YouTube, and you may begin when you're ready, and Christina will remove the graphic.
Okay. All right. Hello, Restonians, and welcome to this special meeting of the Board of Directors, Friday, July 16th, 4:30 p.m. We have quorum, so I am going to call this meeting to order. I have no opening remarks. So I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda for today's special board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. Okay. Anybody?
Wait. Can we, sorry to interrupt. Reason I haven't voted is can we show the agenda, please?
Christina, can you do that, please?
All right,
Thank
1
you.
second. Okay, can everybody
so-
see?
Yeah, I think so. So it's just this item?
Correct.
Okay, sorry about that. I misunderstood earlier. Go ahead.
Okay.
I vote aye. Aye from Director Collins.
Okay. Were there any nays or abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to member comments. I know this has all come together at the last minute, but has anyone signed up for member comments, Christina?
No, nobody has signed up, but if anybody would like to,
Jeez.
you raise your hand.
Okay. Do we have anybody out there who would like to make a member comment? 3 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes if you're representing an organization.
So I'm seeing a hand from Lakehan Brew House.
Did I see your hand, Mr. Yarborough? And can someone unmute Mr. Yarborough?
Thank you. Jason Romano.
Okay. Do we have Mr. Yarborough up first?
Trying to unmute now.
Thank you very much.
Just as a reminder, anybody making a member comment, please state your name and address.
I'm Kirby Yarborough. I'm the lay leader of the Washington Plaza Baptist Church, which is on the plaza at Lake Ann. I'm here basically making a request for continued and careful coordination for these outdoor events and other events that happen on the plaza. Most of you know the church has been in existence since 1967, and going way back to then, we've hosted our own worship services, lots and lots of meetings and festivals, community meetings, and we have a fairly large group of other organizations that rent space from us. We need to really carefully coordinate all of those uses to make sure that our needs are met and that the needs of our tenants are met. But equally importantly, we also need to coordinate when we want to use the facilities of the plaza, or vice versa, when other organizations around the plaza want to take advantage of our capabilities, which is about the first 5 feet of the so-called church steps, the electrical power that's available from the front of our church, and the downstairs meeting rooms and bathrooms, which we've allowed other organizations to use when they're staging events. This is particularly important to us to make sure that our own activities, our tenants' activities, and the activities of the organizations that want to stage events on the plaza are all carefully coordinated so that we don't collide with one another. And this is particularly important when we have amplified music, either spoken word or amplified music, because it's quite audible inside our building in some cases. So we need just to be very careful when we're accommodating those requests. So what we're looking for or asking for is continued coordination and scheduling in advance so that we know what's coming and we can take steps as needed in order to accommodate our own uses, our tenants' uses, and the uses of the organizations that want to use our facilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for a member comment?
Hi, this is Jason Romano.
Hey, Jason, could you state your address, please?
Yes, I'm representing LARCA as the association's president.
Okay.
I still think we need an address, don't we, Karen?
Yeah,
Like a personal
we
address.
still need your personal address. It's a procedural thing.
Sure. The main office for LARCA is 11402 Washington Plaza West. My personal address is 11424 Washington Plaza West.
Thank you. Okay, you may begin.
Thank you, and thank you for the time. I sent in an email earlier today, and I wanted to read a bit of that here, just to voice our concerns on this particular topic. So approximately a month ago, the LARCA board secretary treasurer became aware of a TSP event permit that had been submitted to Fairfax County for approval by the Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association. The paperwork submitted did not have the appropriate LARCA board approval, nor was it produced on official LARCA letterhead. Rather, our letterhead was falsified to Fairfax County by this group. LARCA requested that the TSP review process be stopped while we reached out to the submitting association. The LARCA Plaza is private property, and we have a long established process for its open space use. The requesting association is not affiliated with LARCA, but does include some merchants on our plaza. The established process for use of the LARCA-owned plaza is for our management office to receive a completed application, which is reviewed to comply with our association's requirements, then submitted to the LARCA board for approval. It is a very simple process that covers the responsibilities of insurance, cleanup, and community communications, among other things. This process provides a mechanism for all of our residents and merchants to work together to deconflict other events occurring in our community, to prepare staff appropriate for the potential of increased patrons, and to inform all residents, tenants, and businesses, plus the greater Lake Ann community of events through our publicly available event calendar. The applicant in question is aware of these processes, yet has chosen to abandon their TSP request of Fairfax County and instead attempt to gain approval through Reston Association. We are concerned that this behavior is a deliberate attempt to circumvent LARCA's purview over events on our plaza. Also, we are concerned that should the Reston Association approve this request, the important responsibilities such as liability, trash cleanup, and communications will not be adequately addressed as they pertain to the use of Lake Ann Plaza that will occur alongside and as a result of the approval for amplified music and performance to take place on RA's lake and steps. LARCA is proud of our relationship with Reston Association, and we understand that the request in question at this special meeting is specifically for the use of RA property. But the fact is that the use of the LARCA Plaza itself will be required for patrons to attend these events. And therefore, approval from RA should be contingent on approved plaza use from LARCA. We remind all that the appropriate path for plaza use is to submit an application through LARCA. And we are waiting for this submission from the aforementioned association and are more than willing to expedite its approval process in order to accommodate this group and their events. They simply need to comply with the established process. So LARCA is very excited to have events return to our plaza and wishes to have future coordinated events continue on our plaza with this group and others as we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we respectfully request you deny this and any future application unless there is a contingency added for approval from LARCA for plaza use. We feel that with this approach, the Reston Association and LARCA together can continue to provide our greater community with fantastic and well-run events on our collective properties. And I will close with that, but I can remain on if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Jason. Any more member comments?
I am seeing a hand from Sheila.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila Rabel. I'm the owner of Dogma Dog Bakery, and I'm the president of Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association. And we really do appreciate you all doing this on a Friday afternoon. So thank you very much.
Sheila, excuse me, Sheila, could we have your personal
Oh.
address, please?
Gosh, I'm sorry. My personal address is, oh my gosh, because I'm actually, let's see. I have a couple. 4900 17th Street North in Arlington is one. 11414 Washington Plaza West. And then 1632 Chimney House in Reston. So I'm not sure which one you actually need. The Washington Plaza is the business, then 1632 is the residence out there as well. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And I do want to address a couple things that just happened, were stated. Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association represents about 15 different businesses across Lake Ann and Washington Plaza. The majority of them are minority or women owned, but the key thing here is that we include a lot of them. And on a LARCA property, there's about 22 total commercial units of all different types. Now, one of the things that we are trying to do here is make something happen for our member businesses, specifically the restaurants. And we just want to give some background music to those that are coming in and doing things. And as far as Jason's, his statement, we're well aware that there is a dispute between who the actual boards are. We do have LARCA approval to use the property. And I do think that it's really going to be, it really should just be when the attorneys decide and the court decides whoever the actual legitimate board is, we can all work together a little easier. But we are trying to be extremely cognizant of other people's, other businesses' needs and other businesses' schedules. We did check people's schedules. We're trying to move it further away from the church if we can at all possible. We're trying to bring it closer so that everyone can actually see the event if they choose to see it. Having it on the steps of the lake and actually on a boat will give almost all the businesses that are there on the LARCA property the ability to actually see the musicians and enjoy it, versus in another location, it's only going to be basically 2.5 of the businesses. This way, it's all of them. And it also takes away some of the noise. So we tried to be as cognizant of everyone as we possibly can and give these restaurants the ability to have background music. And so if you have any questions, I know Vicky is here also. And if there's any specific question about amplification, we do have Alec Berry that is here as well that can answer some questions, because that would be beyond what I know how to do. So if you have any questions, just let us know.
Hey, thank you, Sheila. Any other member comments?
I'm seeing a hand from Eve Thompson.
Okay.
Hi, this is Eve
Hi,
Thompson.
Eve. Yeah, name and address, please.
11400 Washington Plaza West, Unit 403. So I'm one of the owners of the Lake End Coffee House and Wine Bar. So I'm a business owner on the plaza, as well as a resident of the plaza. And I just want to echo Jason's comments about, and Kirby's comments about the importance of communication. I mean, there's been no communication from the Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Association to me, to my business. There's been no calendar communication, no, hey, we're thinking about this event or that event, which is a pretty routine thing that happens in the condo. Condo communications about events, potential and scheduled events go out way in advance so that you can plan your own music calendars. Most of the restaurants have music on their patios. We need the opportunity to either not have music or move your music inside, whatever the case might be. I think the other thing that is really critical is just being able to plan for the influx of trash and patronage. A few weeks ago, there was an event scheduled that was super fun, and I do want to stress that nobody's upset about the events per se. The Turtle Recall played. We had no notice of that. It just showed up. We were understaffed. We were underprepared. And then on Sunday morning, we had the plaza was, every trash can was overflowing. So, no planning from a condo standpoint in terms of being able to haul away extra trash and being prepared for that influx of patronage. So again, love the events, super fun, just really need notification.
That it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Eve. Any other member comments? Okay, then I'm going to turn this next portion of this meeting over to the two directors who requested it, Director Petrine and Director D'Souza.
Right.
Do you want to make the motion?
Yes. I move to approve the request of Calypso's and Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association to use amplified music on the lake and surrounding common area as presented, contingent upon a mutually agreed upon licensing agreement being executed by the parties.
I'll second it. And if we have any discussion, if not, we can call a vote.
Hey,
Go ahead,
Bob,
Director.
quick question. You said executed by the parties, but you didn't. I don't think you said which parties.
Well, between the request was made of Reston Association to use Reston Association property by the Merchants Association. So those are the parties to the agreement. That's what I've understood since council provided us with the initial request.
Okay, so you're not saying subject to an agreement between LARCA and the Merchants Association. You're just saying between RA and the applicant.
Yes, because that's
understood.
It is not. It was a request made, which we get similar requests throughout the year.
Yeah.
And because of the timing, it was the reason that we approached it in the way that we did.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
Understood.
Go ahead, Tim.
Bob, could you clarify what dates we're talking about with your motion?
The dates that I received from council were July 17th, tomorrow, the 31st, and potentially August 13th. Those are the three dates that I'm aware of.
And they
The- the-
withdrew July 17th, so it's just the 2 dates, July 31st and August 13th.
Is everyone in agreement? Because the person who made the motion is not saying anything. Is everyone in agreement on that July 17th is off the table?
I was informed earlier today that because of the timing of our meeting, that Fairfax County would not be able to approve the permit because they will be closed by the time our meeting is over. So I based my motion on the information that was provided in the original request for the agreement among Reston Association and the Merchants Association.
Right, but we still need a date certain.
Do you want us to add a date in the motion? Would that help?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, may I be recognized?
Am I the chair at this point?
Yes.
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 Yes, you may be recognized.
By email of today at 9:37 a.m., applicant has removed the request for July 17th. So you'd only be dealing with the 31st and the August 13th date.
And Tony, do you need us to add it in the motion, the dates, or?
Sure. At this point, just for the sake of clarity, let's go ahead and add those.
Okay,
May I make an amended motion
sure.
to exclude or subtract from the dates July 17th and to include only the dates of July 31st and August 13th?
Yes, and I'll second.
I have a question about that because is August 13th a definite? Because in the initial request, that was a perhaps August 13th and.
Right. And in their email today, they've confirmed that that's an
Yeah,
ask.
okay.
Yeah. Can we call the vote if? there's
No.
more discussion? Do we have
I'd
any
like to
other
be-
directors with questions?
It looks like Director Dowling has his hand up.
I'd like to, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a comment. I oppose the motion for several reasons. Let me start with the county permit. I understand as a general matter, Reston Association does not require an applicant to show that it has obtained a county permit. This general rule makes sense in most cases because applicants typically pursue the approvals simultaneously. And Reston Association can reasonably be confident that its members will obtain all the required permits for an event like this. But this case before the board today is different. Mr. Romano is telling us that the county won't approve the pending permit application because the proposed events have not been approved by the officers of LARCA who are currently recognized as legitimate by the county under applicable Virginia law. And that makes this case very different. If this is true, we can't ignore this fact. We should not approve a request by an applicant who is refusing to meet county requirements. This isn't taking sides in the litigation. It's simply acknowledging the status quo, that under applicable Virginia law, as of today, the applicants before the board will not receive county approval unless and until they engage with the LARCA officers that the county recognizes as legitimate. We shouldn't ignore the unique facts here under the pretense of treating everyone the same. The facts in this case are different and they warrant a different result. We shouldn't be comfortable approving an application where the applicants can't or won't comply with county permitting requirements. But my main reason for opposing the motion is the potential harm to neighbors. And I very much appreciate the comments that were made by Kirby and by Eve in this regard, stressing the importance of coordination and communication. Now, normally, Reston Association can reasonably rely on the local cluster association to sort out these issues. But here the situation is different. The applicants have failed to show adequate interest in whether their application will harm some of their neighbors. In fact, we learned today that some of the neighboring merchants found out about this application by pure chance. Any merchant, resident, or other neighbor that is not a member of the applicant association LAFA, is at risk of not even receiving notice of these events. What kind of harm am I talking about? Well, Eve Thompson talked about one kind of harm. So there have been similar events held in the recent past at Lake Ann that have resulted in trash strewn across the common area at Lake Ann, not on the RA property on the dock, but on the LARCA property common areas. And refusal by the event sponsor to provide for cleanup after the event is unfair to other merchants and to local residents. RA has no authority over this LARCA property, and so it can't really insist that it be cleaned up, and it can't adequately enforce any commitment to clean it. But RA should not grant approval for use of RA property for an event that benefits some members but could harm others, especially when the applicants have made no genuine effort to mitigate those harms with respect to certain of their neighbors. Or consider the impact of amplified music on another merchant at Lake Ann that previously scheduled musical entertainment. I witnessed an event recently at Lake Ann very similar to the one being proposed, with a few musicians and speakers on the RA dock steps and another musician in a pontoon boat. And let me tell you, it was loud. It was loud even from a distance. And if another business had scheduled musical entertainment that evening, it would have been drowned out. And the applicants tell us they take, quote, great care, that's the phrase that they use, great care to avoid such conflicts with other merchants. But this effort seems to be limited to members of their own association and not to all the merchants there, and certainly not to the coffee house and other merchants that found out about these proposed events by pure chance. The applicants even refuse to call or knock on the door of these neighboring merchants to ask if the event might pose a problem. These neighboring merchants have told us that they found out about the proposed events by pure happenstance. And so again, I ask, why should RA grant approval for use of RA property for an event that benefits some RA members but could harm others, especially here where the applicants have failed to make an adequate effort to determine whether a conflict exists?
Right.
Now, I think we would all recognize it would be unreasonable for RA to require any applicant to show that no one objects to an event. But it's quite a different matter to say that we're going to rubber stamp a request for multiple events and presumably all future requests from applicants that are unwilling even to consider the impact on certain of their neighbors. Now, let me say a word about the litigation. Look, we all agree we shouldn't take sides. We shouldn't take sides in the Lake Ann litigation. That's not RA's role. I actually don't know who has the better legal argument, and I don't have any interest in knowing. I just want the court ruling to be correct and to be prompt so we can have a fair resolution and everyone can move on. I really have no dog in that fight. But a yes vote on this pending motion is taking sides. A yes vote is taking the side of a Lake Ann merchant and an association that are unwilling to consider the impact of their proposals on neighbors who support the other side. And as I said, I'm not taking sides in the litigation, but I am taking the side of neighborliness and collegiality. A yes vote on the motion is taking the side of those who refuse even to consider reducing harmful impacts on merchants on the other side of the conflict. And I would invite you, go back and look at the email from LAFA. That email tries to turn this application into a referendum on the correctness of their legal position. We have no business doing that. A yes vote on this pending motion is taking sides in litigation. A no vote is taking the side of collegiality and common courtesy for all of the affected parties. Bob Simon often summarized Reston in one word, and that word is community. Reston Association should be promoting neighborliness, collegiality, and community. It shouldn't allow RA property to be used for proposed events that would undermine those values. And finally, I'd like to note that the proposed events at issue are in sharp contrast to a similar application pending from people at Lake Thoreau. The Lake Thoreau event is a highly regarded annual community building event. The proposed events at Lake Ann, if approved, would worsen the acrimony and polarization that currently exists because of the manner in which the pending applications have been handled. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. Mike?
Got it. I'm leaning no. Oh, wait, yeah. I'm leaning no on this for most of the reasons that Tim stated. I thought that was very well put. At first I thought, well, what do we care? When we issue permits or licenses for people to use music or whatever at swim team events, we don't require the team to go around and make sure they have HOA approval or neighborhood approval. We just do it. But this thing could have secondary effects. We're not just approving the music itself. We're really kind of opening it up to people attending this event. And so then I have to ask, all right, well, still, what's the nexus between that event and our members? It's our members we care about. Frankly, our interest is not LARCA. LARCA's interests are not our interests as a legal matter. But our members are, and our members live there. And the potential here for duplicate events, in my mind, raises the noise factor that our residents will have to deal with, could potentially raise the trash factor that our residents have to deal with. It's not far to clusters, and possibly we'll have trash wind up on our dock, trash wind up in our lake. That's not a good thing. Parking could also be affected. Again, not our problem generally, but it is an interest of our members that I think we ought to take into account. And if we had, I understand that there's a letter purporting to be from LARCA. Maybe it is. I don't really know the letter that says that LARCA approves the event. Perhaps it is, but to Tim's point, there's two competing claims to this, and we are in no position to take no place for us to take a position on that. So I think we just shouldn't. And just as a general matter, we think as a general matter that the use of the plaza should be coordinated such that it doesn't have a negative impact on our members, and that's who we have to put first. That's it.
Mike, Tom?
I apologize for this, but it's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. I need to go, and I appreciate the points that were brought up. But can we do a vote? Otherwise, I need to jump off this call.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
No, don't.
Oh, we still have discussion. Go ahead. Sorry.
I admit to being really torn.
I tried, Tom. Sorry.
Sorry?
I'm gonna have to jump off the call. I'll try and call
Did
if I
you?
can.
Okay. Did you?
I've got family from Chicago coming in, so I'm.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off if you wanted to contribute to the discussion.
No, I apologize. I don't have the time.
Okay. All right. I'm really torn about this for several reasons. I think historically, when we have approved events on the plaza, like the polar dip and the cardboard boat regatta and things like that, I don't know did we get LARCA approval for those? I don't believe we did.
No.
But certainly the residents were all aware of it, I guess. So I think there's a consistency issue here, but I also see when it comes to music on the dock and on the lake that could compete with some of the other establishments there, that's a concern for me. I just want to echo what others have said. I think, the politics of Lake Ann is nothing we should get involved in at all. But anyway, I'm struggling with this one.
Can I give some background to bring some clarity on the issue?
Yep.
And I'm sure if we have questions, those at LARCA can answer those. There are two competing boards.
Sarah, I'm very, very sorry to interrupt, but do you still have ownership there?
I do not, so it is not a conflict.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me honest. No. There are two competing boards at LARCA. It is currently under litigation.
Correct.
Jason Romano is, as he made a statement, claims to be president, and Senzel Schaefer, as she gave authorization in the letter that we received, claims to be president. So there are two presidents, two boards. We do not get involved in picking winners and losers, and we do not get involved in deciding who's the appropriate board. So the organizers have said that they have applied to the appropriate board that they consider as the appropriate board and received authorization. I just think it's unfair to penalize them because they did not go to the board that we think or somebody feels like they're the legitimate board. RA should not be picking which board is legitimate and which one is not. Another factor to add here is the coffee house does not belong to LARCA. It's not part of LARCA Condo Association. So it is unfair to expect the organizers to go to neighboring clusters and condos to get their authorization. Very similar to Lake Thoreau music going to clusters that are probably near Audubon or other clusters outside of Lake Thoreau and asking there. It is a difficult decision. It's an unfortunate situation at Lake Ann, which many of us have had to live for the last 4 years. I'm out, but I still feel the pain. I just urge my fellow directors to consider this with fairness, like we approve any other application, without getting dragged into whose side we're on. And asking the applicants to go to the opposing, I guess there are two parties in a lawsuit, and we're upset that they did not go to the party that they're going to court with and work with them. They're obviously going to court because they have not been able to work this situation out. I just remind you again of Tony's email and what we've done.
Attorney-client privilege.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are what we've followed in the past for other events. That's it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Sarah. I know you weren't intentionally breaching that. I just remind you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Madam President,
Yes.
I agree with some of the things Director D'Souza said, and I strongly disagree with other things. I just want to make clear, I am looking at this in a very fair and even-handed way. And if the coffee house or the brew house came to RA and said, we want approval for a proposed event, and we haven't even bothered to check with some of the neighbors at Lake Ann because they're on the other side of this litigation, I would vote against those proposals for exactly the same reason. I would treat all of these merchants the same. What we're promoting here is not one side or the other in the litigation. What we're promoting is neighborliness. And I disagree strongly with this idea that it's unfair to ask Calypso to go and ask a neighbor who is literally 25 yards away whether amplified music might conflict with musical entertainment that they scheduled 3 months ago. There's nothing unfair about that. That's just community. That's neighborliness. That's collegiality. That's not unfairness. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I represent the South Lakes District for whoever's on the call that that is not aware of who we represent. South Lakes District includes this Lake Thoreau request that is coming before this board next Thursday and has come before the board in the past. And I find substantially similar. I find both of these requests substantially similar. And if you take out the applicants from each and just say, the board doesn't know what the applicant is, and you look at the facts of what has been presented, which is a request in both cases for amplified music on RA property near a village center and our lakes. We have approved and have had fabulous success for this community, for all of Reston, in approvals that we have done in the past related to amplified music. In this case, it's a new applicant, it's a new request. But if we've had success in the past, why are we scared of this request in particular? Because they are substantially similar requests. In addition to that, I think that as evidenced by the comments that we've had this evening from a variety of community members, regardless whether this applicant went to Lake Ann before this meeting or not, the other merchants at Lake Ann are now aware because some of them have spoken at this meeting. So I do think there's an awareness. It sounds like there's an objection, but from a Lake Thoreau perspective, when we've approved those requests, we have not required them to go to, say, Red's Table or Cafe Zano or the South Lakes Village Plaza or Harbor Court Cluster and obtain their permission or let them know that the event is even going on. And it is possible that those restaurants or merchants or those clusters may also object. But we are notifying our members now that and they could attend this meeting, that RA is considering it and they could come in and talk to us about it. So we have, I think, done our due diligence from that perspective. I also look at it from a risk perspective to the association. We approve triathlons, we've approved swimming events that have far more risk involved in them than some amplified music on the plaza or anywhere on RA property for 2 nights for 3 hours each. I would urge the board to consider approving the request due to the previous experience we've had, the fact that these music events, even if they're non-RA, think about the music events around the rest of the community that are non-RA. These are the types of events that bring communities together. And I don't think that there's really much risk in us trying, because if it goes south, RA is going to hear about it. And we have the ability to make another decision the next time around. And sometimes that decision will be no, but for instance, in some of the swimming events we've had injuries. We've had a lot more downside effects to very positive intentioned events that we have approved in the past. And unfortunately, accidents have occurred, but we have still continued to approve those events because of what they bring to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other discussion? Okay. I guess I just want to say one more thing, and I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote on this, but I think Lake Ann is a unique situation. I'm not sure we can compare it as apples and apples with the Lake Thoreau event, just by the very nature of the physicality of Lake Ann. Anyway.
All right.
Um,
Madam President, I'm going to need to go soon too. So if we could have a vote, I appreciate it.
is we- I'm not sure, we have a gentleman raising his hand.
And you have Jennifer raising. her hand.
Yep, Jennifer, go ahead.
I'd ask Karen, the physicality, can you help me understand what you're thinking there? The
Well,
physicality difference between the two?
I'm thinking, I'm thinking like, yeah, like has been brought up before. I mean, you have other restaurants right there that, you know, might be impacted in a negative way by this, is what I was thinking.
And that's different from the Lake Thoreau one
I don't,
because there's restaurants there too. I mean, they're actually, they sit kind of almost in the lake
Right.
on Lake Thoreau. And I would say, yes, I think that you're right, that there is some negative effects from any music event that we do. There are some people that don't like music, and it is possible that people who don't like music might not go to Red's Table or the Coffee House or any other village center business, but there is also the possibility that it might bring in more businesses, you know, more business to these businesses. And I think that we have seen that at Lake Thoreau. There's certainly more people out and about around Lake Thoreau when that event occurs. And so I think that they tend to see more traffic because there are more people around and therefore kind of running down, you know, the street to get, you know, an extra thing of coffee or a meal to take on their boat with them. And so I think that it could work both ways. And I guess if Larry's on, you know, if you could, Larry, could you give us an idea? I mean, how many complaints have we had on the previous Lake Thoreau request? I know we've had complaints, but you know, is it overwhelming to RA staff from some of the negative effects to some community members who may not like the music?
Yeah, so this is Larry. We typically, most years we don't get a complaint from Lake Thoreau. And when we do, it's typically one. There was one gentleman that complained for like 3 consecutive years. But that's about it.
And Larry, what about the Lake Ann events, the polar dip and the cardboard boat and other things?
Those are actually brought forth. I think LARCA is a partner in those.
Oh, okay.
With a broad amount of support.
Okay.
Do we get complaints on those?
No.
Not that you recall?
No.
Thank you.
Did we get any complaints on the triathlons? So the early morning, I know there was one on Sunday morning that upset a lot of people.
We, every once in a while, because if the PA, you know, the PA can't start till 7, every once in a while, you know, somebody will call about that, but that's rare as well.
Yeah.
And Tim, I was trying to summarize in my head kind of what your major concerns related to this is, and I think that we've talked about the reach out piece as one of them. Is there other things that would make a request more palatable? And I'm asking, to be honest, not only for this request, but for future requests. I think that as a board, we have to consider how we're going to evaluate these requests. And, you know, depending upon what we decide on how we're evaluating this one, you know, could change the way that we evaluate future ones. So I'm curious from that perspective.
Yes, Tim.
Madam President, just to respond to Director Juszczyk, I've asked several times over the last several days, what have the applicants done to determine whether their proposed events would harm their neighbors? And I have no doubt that the members of the association, the members of LAWFA, have been consulted. But I'm concerned about the lack of coordination, to use Kirby's term, with people outside of LAWFA, with entities, with residents, with merchants outside of LAWFA. There has been no coordination with many of them. And when I asked, why hasn't there been coordination? Go back and look at the LAWFA response that we got. It is a combination of vitriol and legal theorizing without really answering the question.
Tim, at this point, I think.
Excuse me, I believe I have the floor. Thank you very much.
Sorry to
I
interrupt.
was recognized by the president. Thank you, Sarah.
Karen, can we just avoid name calling, please, and keep this above board? Thank you.
There was no name calling
I
at
didn't hear any
all.
name calling. Yes, could,
Okay.
Go back and look at the email, Director, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There was the bottom line is there has been no effort, no genuine effort by these applicants to reach out to members who they view as, to merchants at Lake Anne that they view as disfavored for whatever reason. And I'm not particularly interested in knowing what those reasons are. But the bottom line is many of the merchants involved, many of the merchants that are going to be potentially harmed by these events, not only the two that are subject to the motion, but future events as well, found out about this by pure chance. And that's what bothers me. So as I said before, Jennifer, just to answer your question, I would feel the same way if this application were coming in from the coffee house or the brew house, and they had the same blasé attitude about potential harm on Calypso. I would deny it. So you're asking how would the application, how could it have been made in a better way? Reach out to your neighbors. Make a genuine attempt to figure, as Kirby said, to coordinate, to communicate with people who are going to be impacted. That would be one way in which this process could have been greatly improved.
Karen?
Thank you.
yes, Sarah.
I have two requests. One is I'd like an executive session really quick with Tony.
Oh.
The second is we are forcing neighbors to, this is like going back to the example of DRB. Even affected party, now we're changing the rules and saying we want more affected parties in this case to comment on it. We've had an application standard we've seen the application for Lake Thoreau, the music. That does not include approval from neighbors. It does not include, we haven't held them to the standard of coordination with neighbors. And here, knowing the politics of Lake Anne, we are forcing one group to be at the mercy of another. And I just think that's unfair. And we, especially as Reston Association Board, do not have that kind of authority to force one side to go work with the other side. We're not, preschool teachers, we're not putting them in timeout. We're just looking at an application for use of our property. And it would help if we could have Tony weigh in.
We have a motion to go into executive session.
Can we do that while we have a motion on the table?
Good question.
Tony?
Yes, it's a subsidiary motion.
Okay.
Can I go into executive session, please?
Second.
I'd like to have a discussion on this motion, please.
No, can we please just go into session? I'm sorry, Tim, but I'm waiting. I'm ready to leave. It's 5:30 on a Friday.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. We don't need an executive session. And I was concerned about your time urgency. We've already lost one director. I really don't think we need to go into executive session on this.
No, we won't know till we won't know till we get there, I guess.
Point of order.
Yes.
I believe I heard it was motion to convene an executive session to consult with counsel.
Yes. Thank you.
Agreed.
And it's been seconded. If there's no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? One. All those opposed? Two. All those opposed? Were you an aye or a nay, Sarah?
Yes, I was an aye. So
So there were two ayes, Jennifer and Sarah, is that correct?
yes. Yeah.
What did Mike vote?
Sorry?
What did Director Collins vote?
Did you vote
3-3.
nay?
3-3, motion fails.
3-3.
No, I voted aye.
You voted aye.
3-3.
Motion fails.
Fails.
Okay. So if there's no more
Call the
discussion,
vote.
it is, yes, Jennifer.
We vote on the Lake Thoreau request in 6 days. And if we vote, I want to say, if we vote this down, they are going to see it as as though we're putting their music requests in jeopardy, and they're going to come out in droves. And to be completely honest, I will support them coming out in droves because we're changing up the way we're going to factor these requests. And I honestly, we can't get Tony's opinion because we're out of executive session, but I think consistency is something that I've heard all lawyers say, that if you're going to set a precedent, we have not asked the Lake Thoreau community to do that. And I don't think we should ask the Lake Thoreau community to go to the plaza, the village center, and ask for those, or even inform them. I mean, it's a community event. And the other piece that I will say is the noise ordinances in Fairfax County allow amplified music until 10 o'clock at night. The request before us is until 8 o'clock at night. So it is well before then. So the effects that it has on others still fall within Fairfax County guidelines. And if they play louder music that is above the decibel level, then that's a police matter. That's not an RA matter. Our decision here is related to the risks and the benefits to the association. And what are the risks and what are the benefits to the association?
Right.
That's what we should be making this decision based on.
Yeah, and
Mike?
yeah, sure. And I think I am, Jennifer. I absolutely appreciate what you're saying, but I do agree that Lake Ann is different. It's got our members living overlooking this plaza right next to it, and I think, and I know there are some close to Lake Thoreau as well. Those houses are close too, but it just feels different to me to have the potential for two events in one place that creates much more noise, much more traffic, much more trash that could affect our members there. So that's how I see that. That's what I see as the difference. And I appreciate that you may see them as analogous situations. I appreciate that you brought that up because it's a valid concern.
Can you help me understand? Are we talking about competing musics? Because restaurants do that all the time. So like Coffee House would have a band on their patio, Calypso's would have a band on their patio. And those things go on in all places where you have mixed use. So in this case, in fact, by putting the band on the lake, I think it benefits more businesses and it's further away from the coffee house. So I'm trying to understand what is the objection. And I, like Jennifer, I fail to see the difference between the two because they both have residents, but just mine.
Well, and at least the residents at Lake Ann are above ground. I mean, the residents at Lake Thoreau are at the same level as the music is coming.
If the coffee house or any other merchant over there scheduled a classical guitarist to play to their outdoor patio guests 3 months ago, and now we're going to authorize amplified music on the deck with 100 people standing on common property, they're going to be drowned out. It's going to be a disaster. It's as simple as that. This isn't rocket science. I was there for the most recent event where they had the drummer on the pontoon boat and the musicians on the steps of the dock. I'm not quite sure why that event didn't come to the RA board for approval. Seems like it should have, but that's water under the bridge. But I can tell you, there is a genuine conflict. And Kirby from the church also argued very powerfully that it's not only a conflict between merchants. There are residents, there's a church, there are other entities there that can have events that can be inconsistent and conflict with these kinds of proposals. Thank you.
Yes, Bob.
I'm going to vote for to approve the request for the following reasons. I think it's a reasonable request. As comprehensive a view and opinion that Tim has expressed, which I thank you for the time to do that. I respectfully disagree with you that we are put in an an untenable position where, irrespective of what we decide, it will be there will be factors in the community that will find fault with it. I think this is, again, excuse my language, but a tempest in a teapot. These conflicts happen all the time. If there are known conflicts, I'm sure people would not have scheduled things to overlap with one another. And as far as adding to the crowds on the plaza, bring it on. I think that's one of the objectives that both associations are looking to do. So I have said my piece. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it on the discussion? Yes. Oh, Jennifer, sorry. You're muted.
Tim, sorry, I just realized that, so I unmuted. Tim, if Red's table and the Lake Throw party were scheduled on the same day, would you be against having the Lake Throw event?
No.
That's the piece I'm trying to understand. If there's conflicting events, is that what you're concerned about? Or is it a lack of agreement? Is it?
I can tell you, I have some familiarity with the annual Lake Throw event, and I addressed it in my comment. It is a wonderful community building event, even though there may be some people who object to it. But I really think it's a bit far afield. I am more than happy to have whatever conversations are needed to assure you that that is completely, it's apples and oranges. It's completely different. But I'm getting concerned that we're going to lose another director. So maybe the one thing Sarah and I agree on is maybe it's time to end the discussion and call.
I don't think we agree on anything, Tim. Please don't speak for me. Karen, can
No, come on, Sarah, that was really unnecessary.
No, Mike, I'm really tired of this. We've gone an hour discussing.
He just has to call for a vote. He just has to call for a vote.
I think
and this meeting, I believe, was scheduled for an hour and a half if we needed it.
Can I say my 2 cents, please? And you can go into.
Yes, but please let's be civil.
So we've had directors insult the applicant, name call, all of those. Let's put all of those aside. I went an hour without bringing out the equity issue. These are minority women-owned businesses. We do not control the businesses. The applicants here are minority majority, and we are holding them to a different standard versus a Lake Throw neighborhood, which is majority white $1 million homeowners. So can we please see how this plays out? And if you don't see the equity issue, this is another reason why I will go back to the BGC about the importance of having a workshop for the directors to be able to identify the microaggressors and the sensitivity training. We are holding a small group. I still fail to see the difference. You keep saying apples to oranges. I do not see apples to oranges. All I see is white and brown. That's the difference here. And that is really upsetting me and getting under my skin. I'm really sorry to say that. This is a simple decision. We have approved multiple such requests in the past. Our bylaws do not have any special requirements. We've never asked others for licenses. We've never asked others to go to their neighbors. Yet in this case, we're holding them to a different standard. That does not even exist in our bylaws. You want to make up those rules, let's make them up. BGC can come up with those resolutions. Let's vote on it. Let's set those standards. But for now, we do not have those standards. So this applicant has met every requirement we have had. They've responded patiently to questions we've asked. One might think it's vitriol, the others might think they were being fair in giving us a response. But it is not fair of us to change the rules. This is the 101, guys, 2021. I should not have to give you a workshop on equity. You cannot move the finish line and then say you did not meet us at the finish line. The standards need to be the same across the board. That's all we've been asking for. And you can keep saying apples and oranges. This is black and brown. Sorry, white and brown or white and black. You cannot change the rules just for a sect of people. Please remember, our bylaws do not ask for these things. Our applications do not require these things. We are suddenly making up additional requirements for this one small subsect, and that is really upsetting me. I'm sorry to be losing my cool, but thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer.
I fear that if we don't approve a Lake Ann request now, then how are we going? Does that mean, are we setting a precedent at that point that we're just not approving any requests at Lake Ann to use RA property? That's a little concerning to me, that the residents of Lake Ann or the residents of Lake Audubon or the residents of, our other lakes where amplified music requests might be, that we're setting ourselves up to not approve them. And I'm really hopeful that we want to say yes to these types of requests. It's the reason why RA property was put in an organization like ours, is for community use. And I want to make sure that we're thinking of those long-term effects. I also want to, I think that it's important, and you've heard me say this before, that when members make comments or requests of us, that we have something that we go back to them with. So if we don't approve this request, to me, it's very important that we really identify why, because I think that our members deserve to know what was the holdback factor. And it's kind of why you keep hearing me ask you guys questions of what is the holdback, because I think that is an important sentiment to get to, is what are the reasons that are holding us back?
I just want to say one thing to Sarah, and that I have been deliberating hard on this, and I just want you to know that the color of the parties involved never entered my mind as I was.
Yeah, I don't think we even knew that until they mentioned it and you brought it up. So
But you do understand that we're changing the rules for a certain subgroup, which I don't think is fair.
I understand the argument. It's a fair argument. I agree.
Thank you. Can we, again, Karen, your chair, would we call the meeting? Are we okay to allow the organizers speak? I think they're both trying to They might have something to share. Alec and Vicky have their hands up for a long time.
Madam President,
Yes,
if we allow, if we reopen the member comment section,
yeah.
we'll be here until midnight.
We,
We've
yeah.
already lost one director. We're about to lose.
The opportunity has passed. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, we ready to call the question? Do we need to have the motion repeated?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I move to approve the request of Calypso and Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association to use amplified music on the lake and the surrounding common area as presented, contingent upon a mutual agreement on license agreement between Reston Association and the Lake Ann and Washington Plaza Merchants Association for the dates of July 31st and August 13th between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m.
I seconded it.
we have the second.
Third time's a charm. You got that one perfect, Bob.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, the motion
Thank you, guys.
carries.
Thank you.
Was that was the last one, right?
That
So
was-
we're at the adjourn. Someone
That
has
was
to.
it.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Surprised we
Can
all
I-
didn't
can I-
jump at that
Whoa,
one.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Can I make a quick comment on the motion? Can I just, trust me.
On the motion to adjourn?
On the motion to adjourn
Yeah.
or the?
Yes, on the motion.
Oh, on the motion
yeah,
to
yeah.
adjourn?
I don't want to adjourn before we wish Karen a happy birthday.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
yesterday.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
I didn't know
Happy
that.
birthday, Karen.
Happy
Thank you, Mike.
birthday.
Thank
All
you,
right.
thank you.
Karen.
Thank you,
Very
Mike.
Okay, now we can vote.
I think we're all unanimous on that.
I think we're good to go.
Even Skylar votes yes.
Even Skylar says, get off the phone, Mama.
Is she
Bye,
feeling
everybody.
better?
A little bit. First cold ever.
Ah,
So Mom's not feeling as good as she probably is.
everybody, please have a pleasant weekend.
Thank
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
guys. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.